Today we're going to take a look at what's the deal with due diligence. And I'm Justin, and this is Angie. Welcome, Angie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Angie's one of the agents on our team, and she specializes in helping people get through what I think is the most stressful part of buying a house, and that is the due diligence period. Angie, do you agree with that? Is due diligence the most stressful part?
I think so.
Yeah, I think almost anyone who's bought a house would agree with that. Well, first of all, for everyone, what is due diligence? Because a lot of times people will say something like inspection period, or do I have a period to inspect? And that can get kind of confusing. So let's start with what is a due diligence period?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's really stressful, but it's also really great. And it's unique to Georgia because we have a true due diligence period where a lot of other states have what's called an inspection period. So what it means to have a due diligence period is that you can actually leave the contract for any reason whatsoever. It could be a default that you find. It could be that you've just changed your mind. It could be because you take your mom and she hates it. Whatever.
And that happens, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. So, it's really your chance to get the house under contract and then find out the answers to any question that you have about that home without having any financial burden to the home.
Yeah, so it's actually really great for the buyer because it's been a seller's market for a while in Atlanta. And so a lot of times the sellers have the upper hand when the house is listed and if offers are being made. But once you get into the due diligence period, the buyer then sometimes can get a little bit of an upper hand because they can terminate the contract, but the seller
cannot.
The seller cannot. So only the buyer can back out of the contract at that point. So the due diligence period, what are the main things that we have to do in that period and what makes it so stressful?
So what's stressful is because you've fallen in love with this house, and this is the time where we're now going to reverse that and find everything that is possibly wrong with the house.
Because you need to know that, right? Before you buy a house,
you need to know that. And it doesn't mean, you are going to find stuff. We've yet to find a perfect home that doesn't have something wrong with it. But it's great. You're getting that information up front. And then now you just have a second chance to renegotiate the contract to make sure these things are handled in a way that's going to work for you.
And how long is the due diligence period? Is there a standard period of time?
Yes, it varies. We're seeing right now that it's about 7 to 10 days.
And that's one of the things, in my opinion, that I think makes it stressful is
yes,
you have a short
fast
period of time that does seem to go by super fast.
Yeah, and in that period, you're going to be doing inspections. You're going to be doing any follow-up inspections after that.
Like, what would that mean?
So a lot of the frequent ones that we see is your inspector will come through and they might point out something that needs a little bit further investigation. A lot are something with the crawl space. Maybe the roof has some issues. A lot of times we get additional plumbing scopes. So those are the three big ones.
Awesome. And so this is one of your specialties. It's something that you're known for both on our team and throughout the agent community is navigating these due diligence periods. What do you do that helps our clients in a way that may not be the norm or may really just lead you to have great success for them?
Yeah, so this is a part that we consider to handle full service. We will schedule that inspection for you. We have great relationships with our inspectors and can usually get that on the books within 24 hours to 72 hours.
Which makes a big difference when you only have 7 days to have your inspection on day 1 versus day 6.
So difference. Before you've even gone under contract, we're already reaching out to the inspectors, getting something in the books for you. So we stay really proactive there. We maintain really strong relationships to make sure that is scheduled really promptly. And then once the inspection happens, we schedule a 30-minute walkthrough with the inspector. This is awesome, especially for first-time home buyers who maybe have a lot of questions about the functionality of a home. The inspector can go through and point out where everything is, how everything works, and it's just a chance for you to really get to know the house. It's scary though, because the inspection reports that they write are like 60 pages long. They will tell you every crack on the sidewalk. Like, it is very detailed and shows you everything.
Because a couple things on that. I mean, one, you want to know, right? You're buying this house. You want to know what issues there might be. And secondly, you have to remember from the inspector's standpoint, there's a lot of liability for the home inspector. And so they have got to point out absolutely everything, even if it practically may not be that big a deal. They've got to share that. And so yes, a lot of times people will get those reports and they're like, oh my goodness, 60 pages, is this house falling down? And sometimes it's actually really great report.
Yeah. So at that walkthrough, we'll kind of pinpoint what are the big issues, if there are any, and then what issues need further clarification. And then, again, one of the things that we consider to be full service is that we will actually schedule with our different vendor partners additional follow-up. And if we don't have a vendor partner for that particular issue, we'll find one for you. I'm usually at that inspection walkthrough already texting my plumber, my roofer. I'm already texting them, sending them over this information in real time as we're receiving it, just to get it on their books and go ahead and get them scheduled to come out. So I can usually get everybody out within 72 hours from the inspection to give us further clarification on issues. At that point, they'll also give us an actual quote for the repair, so we know how much it costs to fix it.
So then what do you do with that information? So you've had the inspection, you know what the issues are, you've gotten the vendors to come back out, which that is no small challenge in itself. Anyone who has tried to book vendors recently knows, construction industry is booming, people are busy, that's not easy to do. But then you get them out, you get that information, and then what are the buyer's options from that point in the due diligence period?
Yep, so now at this point, you've got all your information, and we're just gonna use that to negotiate the contract even more. Every situation's different, but sometimes you one of the ones that's probably not my go-to, but you can do a price drop on the home. You can ask the seller to do the repairs prior to closing, or you can ask the seller for closing costs instead of doing the repairs.
What are the pros and cons to those?
So, like I said, we don't do the sales price one a lot. It typically only ends up being a couple dollars a month on your mortgage, and you just don't feel that as much.
So even though you get the actual cash on the price of the house is less, people don't feel it because you're financing a lot of the house. And so it's like, there's a $5,000 problem and I'm saving $14 per month. Yeah,
so you just don't notice that one as much. The next thing would be having the sellers do the repair before closing. That can be good if it's a small repair. If the light switch isn't working, we can have the light functional. Small repairs, it's fine. But if there's a kind of complex repair with a lot of components, even if the seller has the world's best intentions, they're never going to do that repair the same way you would. So that can get tricky when it's 2 days before closing and you go in and the repair's technically finished, but it's just not finished how you would like it to be. So the third thing is that we can get closing costs in lieu of the repairs. This is kind of our favorite one to use because what it is that the seller is contributing cash at closing. So you're actually bringing less money to the closing table, and that you feel it, and that just saves you that much money to do the repair yourself after closing. And then at this point, we have the cost, we have the vendor, we have the quote. So there's no question is it going to be enough cash? Is it not? What you're getting into.
What if you can't get the seller to agree to any of those things? Then what can the buyer do?
Well, at that point, you have the decision to make if it's something that you are willing to take on because you love the home, or if you want to walk away. But it's great because we can walk away for any reason and you'll get all your earnest money back. So you're only out the cost of the inspection.
Yeah. So the beauty of that is you have helped people figure out this is what the full picture looks like. And you still have the power during that due diligence period to say either, yes, I'll buy the home and I'll take on this responsibility after closing, or no, I'm not going to buy it. And then another piece of leverage you have here is any defects the seller then has to disclose to future buyers, which often can really work in the buyer's advantage.
Yeah, our experience is that most sellers are pretty reasonable, and if you have all these tools, you have quotes, you have expert opinions, you have in writing all this information on the home. So most people are willing to work with you. We usually end up getting somewhere close to having those repairs covered.
Is there anything else during the due diligence period that you typically see your buyers doing that they need to get done in a quick time that you help with? Any other things?
A big one is a survey. That can be a really tricky one to get finished within a short time frame. Again, we just have great relationships with survey people, so we'll get that scheduled and on the books for you as well. So that's a big one. It's also, it's a great time to book your commute, check out the schools, talk to the neighbors, anything like that. So, if you ever have questions about the neighborhood, we can usually connect you with a past client of ours who lives in the neighborhood and set something up so that you can get more information and know that you're making the right choice.
And then you get all your questions answered by the end of due diligence. And then you move on to the more fun part, which is actually closing and moving into the house.
Yep.
Angie, thanks so much for coming and sharing what the deal is with due diligence. And I've seen Angie handle this for lots of our clients, and it's really impressive how she takes a really stressful time and gets folks through it. So appreciate that, Angie. And we appreciate you guys watching. We will see you again next week.